Alrighty.
Alrighty then.
How we darn, people? How we darn?
How we doing?
What's up? Let us know who's in the chat. We
Let me
see
know.
is
Okay. By the way.
yeah. Let us know if someone's too high, if someone's too low. We never want to do a stream and then one of us is like way too high and like peaking and the other person's like really quiet.
Yeah.
What's Gucci, guys? So let us know if someone is too high or too low. Vol Navy says first comment. What's up? Bob likes cheese. You know what, Bob? Let me tell you that is Bob. That reminds me of The Incredibles for some reason. You know the guy at the insurance agency?
Yeah. That's funny.
Bob. Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
He says, I have
That's
two picks next year. I'm planning to take Bijan first, and second pick, I'm deciding between Gibbs and Bryce Young. My quarterbacks are Lance, Kyler. Only relevant running backs are Kenneth Walker and Dobbins. Yeah, I think that's a good question, but someone asked it down below. Is it Superflex, Bob? Bob! You know what, Bob? Here at AmeriCorp, Bob. When you're on your calls longer, Bob, we don't care about filling their requests, Bob.
So random.
Yeah, so random. Anyway, Bob, that context is important. I'm assuming it's Superflex League. Otherwise, you're probably not considering taking a quarterback that early. But, yeah, I mean, between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, what's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor. You decide. But also, I wouldn't be opposed to going Gibbs and to go in Bijan and Gibbs back-to-back. If your only quarterbacks or running backs are Kenneth and Dobbins, man, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I agree. I'm happy with that as well.
Aaron says, I got ETN running back 1 rest of season. Love it. I'm going to try to trade J.K. Dobbins once he comes back and looks good. Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't trade Dobbins now. Just got to hold on to him. It's tough.
So,
what's up, Vol? We're here. Hola, Paco. Yo, Reach, what's Gucci? What's up, El Tigre? Dab on him. Yo, Reach says, I've got 2 firsts, 1 early and 1 mid to late. I love it. She says, should I keep them both or trade for a young wide receiver this year? I mean, I would look at keeping them both, but I like this class.
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Sounds good, both. Okay, awesome. Riley says, I traded Chase, my 23 third, 24 third, for a mid 23 first, 23 second, 24 first, Josh Jacobs, Mike Williams, who already flipped for my 23 second back. I'm rebuilding 2 and 6. Curious on your thoughts. Okay, so you moved Chase. And the big things that you got back was the 23 first, the 24 first, Jacobs. I don't know that that's enough for me to move Chase, Badake.
Yeah, I would have kept Chase personally. I think that's kind of the thought process there. I love Jacobs, love everything he's doing. But I'm still keeping Chase longevity there, especially with Joe Burrow.
I think if you can flip Jacobs, though, I think he's at minimum worth a first, maybe more. Like Jacobs right now, I think he's locking himself into a long-term contract with his team. And I think he should be considered a top 12 Dynasty running back right now. So I think you can get it at minimum. Okay. And he's not old either. He's only 24 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So you could probably get a first and more for him. Maybe a first and a second. I don't know if the team is winning right now. And then maybe you've gotten enough value in return. But if you're doing a full rebuild, I don't want to rebuild directly around Josh Jacobs. But if I'm like hybrid winning or a full win now, I'm super happy to have Jacobs on my team. But yeah, it's close. Jerome says, what's good, fellas? Who's y'all's first wide receiver coming off the board for 2023? We're going to talk about it here in a second. Honestly, man, I do not have a solidified first wide receiver yet. At this point of the season, when college football is still happening, we're still evaluating. Like, we know these players. We've scouted their film from last year.
Yeah. I
still want to remain fluid and open. But at this very point, like, if I have to take one wide receiver, like, as an NFL team, it would be Quentin Johnston. Because I think he's like a true 6'4", big body, has like uber talented. I know he's out of TCU. That's going to scare a lot of people. But the gap between Quentin Johnston and everyone else is 0. Like, it's literally a 4-way tie right now for me between Addison, Jackson Smith, Quentin Johnston, and Kayshon Boutte. So, yeah. Do you have one that's standing out for you right now? Because right now I don't have an answer to the question.
All these guys, I'll get into it. I'll get into it.
Okay.
A little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to listen to my voice.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to listen to my voice to see how I sound on the stream, and I sound like I do sound super loud, but like when I put it down, I sound
okay.
really low. So like I'm trying to find the even medium.
Okay.
Sorry, but I do have a wide receiver 1, but Quentin Johnston has rose up right now for me because at the moment I didn't have Quentin Johnston as like a top, I guess, top 3 guy, which now he is now a top 3. But for me right now, it has to be Jackson Smith and Jigba for me.
Okay.
If I would take anyone, if I had to close my eyes and be like, who's the best one right now, it's Jackson Smith for me.
Okay, yeah, and I don't think that's the wrong answer. Like, truly, you could give me 4 names, and I wouldn't say it's the wrong answer, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, hey guys, shout out to the 29 people watching the stream. If you can do us a favor, drop a like.
You like that?
If you like the content, appreciate it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go through a 2023 mock draft. El Tigre says, boys, I went 9-0 this week. I love that. Better offer Brees, Sanders plus late first or Pollard in a first. I mean, the Brees and Sanders side. Oh, better offer for Brees. Sanders in a late first or Pollard in a mid first. Definitely Sanders.
Sanders in the first.
But I don't know if I want to sell Brees for that. I think I want to keep him, but...
Yeah, Sanders is the first for me right now. I think that would be good.
Yeah. Y'all let us know if the stream is okay. Let us know if it's doing all right. I for whatever reason sometimes can't watch our stream because it doesn't load properly for me. So
yeah, I have it up right now. It looks good. I'm just still trying to navigate my sounds.
Okay.
Cool. But I'm trying to keep it at an even level. So let me know if I'm too low, and if I am too low, and just message it in the chat like, yo, Badake, you loud as hell, bro, or you're low as hell. So just let me know.
With how fragile running backs are, got to make one of those picks at a quarterback. I can respect it. I understand running backs are fragile, but at the same time, I don't think that, with how scarce the position is, it's going to scare me off these running backs in this class. But I can definitely understand it and respect it. And I know a lot of people have been having that conversation. Dan says, do you view Gibbs as a 1B to Bijan? No, I think Bijan's in his own tier.
Yeah, I think Bijan is in his own tier as well.
But I also have Gibbs in his own tier.
His own tier as well. Exactly. So Gibbs is in his own tier as well. So I guess you can say it's RB1 and then RB1 number 2. I do believe they're both RB1s, but significantly different talents.
But they're not in the same tier.
Yeah, they're not in the same tier, so it's weird.
Yeah, but it's they're both incredible. All right, let's look at this mock draft together, guys. I see some of your questions. We will leave questions at the very end. We'll do a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions at the end, we'd be happy to, take time and reply and everything. But as of right now, let's go ahead and look at this draft together. Look at this mock draft together. Badake, is the stream lagging at all, or is it all good?
No, it's good. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here with it.
It's so weird on my side. I don't understand how I can't watch our stream.
I think it just might be a lot of things. Or now it's starting to lag.
Okay.
It just came up on my thing, but it's back up now. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Cool. Just want to make sure that we're okay. All right, let's look at this mock draft, and we're going to talk about the landing spots. We did this last week. It was really fun. So the point of this is, none of these landing spots will be final. I believe this mock draft is based off of the current standings in the NFL.
Yeah.
So this mock draft isn't final. Of course, things are going to change. Players are going to change. But as it currently stands, let's talk about these talents with their landing spot, and let's see what that means for Dynasty in 2023 and moving forward. This one is from Joe Marino. It's a 2023 mock draft from Joe Marino. And if you don't know who Joe Marino, he is the founder of the Draft Network. He's a co-founder. He's also a big Bills fan. I'm pretty sure he's like Locked On Bills. I think he's that guy, Locked On Bills. So this would be cool to see. But let's talk about this first one here. We got Bryce going to the Detroit Lions. Tell me what your thoughts are here, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty obvious. We love Bryce. I still rather have CJ over Bryce at the moment. If I had to choose one, once again, I am going CJ, but I don't think there's a wrong answer here either. It just really depends on who you want, what you prefer, what you know, which route you want to go. You know, Bryce is a little bit smaller, or I guess significantly smaller than CJ. But I know a lot of people don't like the Ohio State quarterbacks. So let's see how that's going to play out. Right, especially with all this talent: Amon-Ra, JMO, Swift, TJ. The list goes on. With a great offensive line, so give me Bryce.
Yeah, I had to. I'm trying to bring the stream back to life here. For whatever reason, it's lagging pretty bad. So let me see how our connection is at this point.
Or did we lose connection?
I'm not sure what's happening here. Stream. Let's see. Looks like it's still live on my end, but I'm just trying to make sure that
it's live on my end.
Hopefully it's live on your end?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. I'm getting errors on my end, so I'm just trying to make sure that before we continue, that everyone can hear us. And I see people in the chat, everyone's saying it's lagging, so
I'm listening to it right now, and we're caught up.
Yeah?
Yeah. At the moment, so.
All right, guys, let me know if we got a thumbs up in the chat. I don't want to continue, and it's struggling and stuff. We can hear you. All right.
Yes, we can hear. Favorite says it's live. Yo, Reach says we can hear you live.
Man, this is frustrating. What the heck? Everyone says it caught up. Okay.
See you good, Dustin says.
See, and then I refresh the stream and it's not working for me. Okay, so it's working for you. That's all that matters.
Yeah, it's working.
I'm just gonna turn the stream off because it's gonna piss me off to keep seeing it lag.
Maybe it's just maybe it's your computer. Like my computer does it sometimes where you probably have, I don't know, Audition open, or you have another program open, and then you're trying to stream, and it's probably one of those days with your computer where the RAM is trying to do everything. It just can't do it.
It could be. Thanks for hanging in there with us, guys. Okay, so Bryce Young, let's start here. Bryce Young and Joe Marino's 3.0 2023 mock draft. Again, if you didn't hear, Joe Marino is the co-founder of Draft Network. He also, I believe, is the Locked On Bills guy. And I wanted to bring this mock draft because he also brings his thoughts along with it. So I thought it'd be cool to see his thoughts and kind of react to it as we go. But he says at the 1 pick, they got the Lions going Bryce Young. He says if the Lions are in the number 1 overall pick, it's time to pull the trigger on a quarterback. There'll be plenty of debate over which quarterback is the right choice, but the good news for the team picking at the top of the 2023 draft is that there will be options. Bryce Young lacks size, but his playmaking instincts and intangibles combined with the opportunity to reunite with Jameson Williams gives him a real shot to be the Lions guy in this mock draft scenario. Shout out to the person who just subscribed. Appreciate you.
Devin, appreciate you.
So I've been thinking about CJ and Bryce to the Lions a lot, and I don't know which one I like better. I don't know which fit I like better. But I can say that whoever the quarterback is that goes to the Lions probably should be the first overall quarterback in rookie drafts. I don't know how you feel. That's how I'm kind of feeling. I like Bryce. I like CJ. I think they're both very, in a very similar tier for me. But again, I think landing spot is almost more important for a quarterback than any other position. The coaching staff around you, the offensive line that you're walking into, the weapons, the running backs. I feel like landing spot is more important for running backs than any other dynasty position. Would you agree?
For the quarterbacks, you said for the quarterbacks, yes.
Yeah.
For the quarterbacks, and I think specifically the Lions. I think the Lions are more intriguing, and we did this in that video that we made. Who's going to have the better offense in the next couple years, and it is going to be the Lions. Swift is still young. He is injury prone, but he's still young. You
Yeah.
have Amon Ra, who just had a breakout year going into second year. JMO, who hasn't even hit the field so far. A
Yeah.
young, decent offensive line, or
Panay Sewell.
semi-young,
Yeah.
semi-young offensive line. And then they're building pieces on the other side. Jeff Okuda is doing. Aiden Hutchinson is kind of doing their thing. Martinez or whatever his name is from Hard Knocks is kind of doing this thing as well. I think this.
I think Rodrigo's his nickname.
Rodrigo, there you go, Rodrigo, and I think that's what's more intriguing because and we'll get to CJ, but when you straight think of CJ, it's like, damn, like who else? Like who's gonna be thrown to? Just DJ Moore? Like they just got rid of CMC. Like Bryce is gonna be the guy that has all the weapons, all the opportunity around him, and it just makes. I completely
That's why
agree.
I feel like landing spot for quarterback is again like the most important thing of any position.
And sometimes it takes a couple years, like when Josh Allen got drafted to the Bills, like he didn't have anyone around him, and then it took him like Josh Allen to get relevant into 3 years, and maybe that's what can happen.
Yeah,
maybe
it takes
the
right people around a player to build them up. I mean, I think Pat Mahomes is a transcendent talent, right? Probably one of the most talented quarterbacks ever. But what happens if he landed in Cleveland instead of Kansas City? Would someone have had the patience to build around him as he struggles in Cleveland, and he's a starter straight away instead of sitting a year behind, Andy, what's his name?
Stefanski?
No, the quarterback that used to be in the Chiefs. Alex Smith, excuse me.
Alex Smith. Sorry, I thought
so
you were talking about the head coach. Okay.
Right. Landing spot's really important. Coaching staff's really important. Offensive line, weapons around him. So I think this would instantly lock Bryce in as the first quarterback off the board in rookie drafts. Right. At 2, he has Will Anderson going to the Texans, which, I get it. Will Anderson's probably the best player in this draft class. I almost wonder, though, has Davis Mills shown enough? Has he really shown enough to pass up on CJ Stroud here? I don't think the answer is yes. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think the answer is yes either. And I think if CJ, if this is the way the draft board is going to go, you have to go CJ unless they're going to try and compete and get somebody in free agency, quarterback in free agency. And no, it sounds crazy, and I doubt it's going to happen. And
if a Jimmy comes there or something.
Yeah, what if Lamar doesn't get re-signed and they have so many firsts for the future, which they do have now with Deshaun Watson's trade that went through. Maybe they're going to hold off if that's the case. But I do believe it has to be CJ coming in for the Texans here at number 2.
And, you look at Davis Mills so far on the year, 63% of his passes completed. That's not a bad number. That's not an incredible number. 7 picks, 5 interceptions. I mean, you know who this reminds me of? This reminds me of when Gardner Minshew was, doing just enough to be an okay quarterback in Jacksonville. Did they keep him? No. They moved on and they got Trevor Lawrence, So yeah. I just don't see, personally, a scenario in which Davis Mills is the long-term answer here. And if you know that he's not, why the hell are you taking an edge rusher? And the most impactful player on any team is your quarterback. So I understand Will Anderson's probably the best player in this draft, but I think that would be a miss. And if CJ turns out to be a stud, you're going to think about that for a long time, for decades. All right, at number 3, the Panthers, they go CJ Stroud here. CJ Stroud, officially a Carolina Panther in this mock draft. And let's read Joe's thoughts here. He says, the Panthers have thrown plenty of darts in its efforts to replace Cam Newton at quarterback, but none of those darts included an early investment in the NFL draft. That changes this time around as the Panthers land a toolsy passer that is building an exceptional resume that instantly provides Carolina with the most intriguing young quarterback in the NFC South. And I kind of agree with that statement. But my question is, again, how do you feel about CJ Stroud landing with the Carolina Panthers? A team that is really just selling off most of its assets. Yeah. The offensive line has improved relatively, with Icky there at left tackle. I think that we can definitely say the offensive line has improved. Terrace Marshall, the verdict's still out. DJ Moore, a star without a quarterback. Maybe they draft a running back, but how do we feel about this landing spot for CJ?
Yeah, look, I think it all depends on the head coach. And I like CJ, and I think no matter who goes here, and we said this last time. Well, last time the head coach wasn't fired, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but it depends on who's going to be the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers is going to need to bring in somebody that we trust. They're not going to bring in. I hope they're not going to bring in another freaking college quarterback or a college head coach. I hope they don't go. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good opportunity for head coaches to come up on the scene here. You know, the first one I could think of that every single year that people want, that they're saying he should have a head coaching job, is Eric Bieniemy
No,
from the Chiefs.
no.
But you know, there's also mixed emotions about that as well. You know,
I think that would be a nightmare.
like a nightmare, as in like he shouldn't come like to the
I
Panthers,
just
or
I think
because I know that was like a conversation. It was like he's not ready. Actually, that's why he has been taking those, or he has
for
been
me,
called up.
Bieniemy doesn't have the respect of like the entire locker room.
Right.
And I don't think he, like, to me, he's someone who's a smart mind, but I don't think he possesses the leadership to be a head coach. And that's only because of what I've heard from a lot of beat writers in Kansas City, people in Kansas City who have talked about the frustrations from Mahomes and Kelsey and Tyreek with Bieniemy. There's always been like this butting heads. But I mean, give the guy a chance. Like, why not? He deserves, like, he's been a good offensive coordinator, but I just think that there are better options out there.
Yeah,
as far as head
I'm
coach
just
goes.
want to find a quick list. Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn,
Dan Quinn definitely has the leadership side of it for sure. He
Raheem
can
Mostert.
demand respect.
There's just a list of Brian Callahan from the coordinators from the Bengals. There's going to be a bunch of guys that are going to be looking for, you know, head coaching jobs, and I think that's what's going to matter. But yes, even if they're not a head coach, let's say they get a head coach that we don't really know, is first time head coach or whatever the case may be. Let's say they were to go out and get a running back in free agency or a wide receiver in free agency.
Sure.
You know, and I think that not in the draft specifically, but in free agency, and says, okay, we're going to put as many pieces around CJ, you know, to succeed. I think that would be interesting. And like there's so many running backs. Like, what if they bring Miles?
Sure. I mean, they could even draft one, you know, in the second round.
Draft
they
one
wanted
in the
to.
second round. Yeah, there's Josh Jacobs if he doesn't get re-signed. There's a lot of names out there that they can bring and say, okay, well, they're bringing in pieces. They're building around CJ. I think we just need to see the build around the CJ, not the we're drafting him. Let's just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, and Reaver makes a good point. He says Mahomes' career would already be over if he went to Cleveland, is what we were talking about. His talent is insane, but he's a risk taker. If he had been drafted to that dumpster fire at that time, they would have been chalked. Yeah. Again, takes the right system. I don't know if the Panthers are the right system for CJ, but it's definitely a huge need for them, so it makes sense. All right, the next player that goes off the board is actually, okay, so he has the Texans going Will Anderson at 2. A lot of people's best player in the draft. And then here at 5, he has them going with the with Will Levis out of Kentucky. He says that the Texans are picking this high twice in the 2023 draft, and quarterback position is impossible to ignore. Will Levis is built like an action figure, runs the football like he's George Kittle, and he has a rocket launcher for a right arm. Those traits are worth betting on in the NFL mock drafts. In this NFL mock draft, even if he occasionally colors outside of the line. So this is a prospect a lot of people are on like a certain side of, I would say. There's definitely people who love Will Levis, and there's definitely people who question his ability to really take the necessary steps to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So how do you feel about this landing spot for Will? Because I know you're a big Will guy.
Yeah, I am a big Will guy, and once again, it all depends on what's going to happen, how they build a. I do believe he's going to be taking opportunities. Wouldn't like this for Damian, because you know Will Levis feels like he takes opportunities away from the running back, so that's going to suck in the running back perspective on that team.
Sure.
But I do like Will Levis, and you know, thinking about it, I know we said, well, how can the Texans give up CJ Stroud? I guess like we can probably say the same thing with Will Anderson. Like, how can they give up such a
I agree. Yeah.
A defense force on the other side, and then still get a top guy if he is. Yeah. Once again, all depending on the side that you believe in.
Sure.
But I do like Will, and there goes Blaze. But yes, I like Will Levis. I think he could be successful. Yeah. Just all depends on how they build around him. Do they get a wide receiver as well? The wide receivers, John Mechie, Nico Collins has been there, but you know, hasn't really lived up to par. Brandon Cooks is being shopped right now as well. You know, who else are they going to bring in for Will? They have to make some moves, but they do have a lot of draft capital.
Yeah,
as
they
well,
do.
which is good.
I'm sure that they could look at bringing in someone
Exactly.
through free agency or through the draft. Will Levis, definitely a polarizing prospect. A lot of people will compare him to Josh Allen. The only thing I want to throw out there, like I understand the comparison, but for as many, one Josh Allens there are in the NFL, it's one of one. There are hundreds of failed Josh Allen projects. So that's what worries me.
And
like you have to.
Next week. Sorry.
Yeah, they play Tennessee next week. Yeah. You have to take a lot of steps in growth in order to reach that kind. Like, I understand all the raw materials are there. I don't think he reads the field the way that he needs to. So if he's able to do that, then let's see. By the way, no rushing yards this year. He has 2 rushing touchdowns, but he has negative 49 yards. I'm sure that's from like sacks and stuff. Wasn't he dual threat last year? Yeah, he had 387 yards last year and 9 touchdowns on the ground. So he's trying to take the steps, but it's just...
Yeah, he's trying to take the steps to not be a run-first quarterback, like a guy where... I mean, that was one of the biggest things for both of us. It was like, okay, like we love that he can run.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Can he throw the ball? Can he read the pocket? Can he stay in the pocket? Yeah. And yeah, maybe he hasn't go through progressions and he only has one.
I like that he's trying, but he's not really succeeding yet in that area. I wouldn't say.
For sure.
As far as like actually being able to read defenses, read more than one option. It was very much Wan'Dale Robinson or bust last year as far as like his ability to read a field, and then we're seeing a lot of one read take off. So, yeah, let's see. Again, it could work out, but this is a huge project, and it's going to take the right coaching staff to be around him. And yeah, let's see. Reaver says if we're going upside in talent, I'm taking Anthony Richardson over Levis any day of the week. Levis has never put the fear in the hearts of anyone. Yeah, I can respect the take. Big Anthony Richardson guy myself, but I mean, Anthony Richardson needs to take. If Will Levis needs to take a step, Anthony needs to take 4. As far as his ability to play quarterback. But you're right. As far as like a raw talent, I agree in that scenario for sure. All right, at number 6, the Seahawks go defense. At number 7, the Jags go wide receiver, and it's Jordan Addison, Badake. It says, I like the direction that Jacksonville is headed, but I still believe the team can afford to add even more playmakers around Trevor Lawrence, especially a speedy receiver that can stretch the field. That's exactly what the Jaguars would get in Jordan Addison, who is an outstanding separator that can create space for himself with the ball in his hands. Yeah, Addison, I think he is trending towards being the first wide receiver off the board. It will be really interesting what the bets will be come draft night, but if he keeps on the trajectory that he's on right now, I think he is kind of trending towards, kind of what we thought about Garrett Wilson. He didn't end up being the first wide receiver off the board, but a lot of us thought he would be the first wide receiver off the board. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was dealing with a slight injury recently, but I mean, he's been putting up huge numbers, has, again, another year. Pitt, he did it here at UC. He's doing it, big numbers, showing that he can separate, incredible route runner. My comp for him was Calvin Ridley. He even mentioned that that's why he chose the number 3, and that's kind of like the guy he mentors his game after. He models his game after, if you will. So Jordan Addison to the Jags, what do you think?
I'm not a fan of it personally.
Okay.
Like kind of like you said, he is a field stretcher. For sure was Christian Kirk, and maybe they're not utilizing him the same way. And Jordan Addison is bigger. Kirk's what 5'10",
right,
11ish.
I get it.
Jordan's about 6 foot. So you're just gonna get the same guy again. It's kind of like, why would you draft Wan'Dale if you have Kadarius Toney? Like, why would you draft?
Right, I get it.
Why would you draft Jordan
That's
Addison if you have Christian Kirk? The talent is separate, right?
Yeah.
But the build and the thought process of how you would utilize them is a little bit different. Is the same. Excuse me. How you would utilize them will be the same. Not in love with the landing spot, but hey, Trevor Lawrence does need some guys.
Yeah,
does need some guys. Marvin Jones is not the long-term answer. Obviously, Zay Jones is not the long-term answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they can get another guy on the other side of Christian Kirk, it could be very interesting.
I think I definitely understand where you're coming from, because when Christian Kirk's out of the slot, it's not anywhere near as effective when he is in the slot. So are you going to play Jordan Addison on the outside? I'm not saying that he can't, but Jordan Addison isn't a big body wide receiver. I think he's 6 foot 175, 175 pounds, going up against the defensive backs in the NFL. I mean, Olave's been able to do it. I don't know. I definitely like the fit for in the sense that like you're giving Trevor Lawrence a really young, incredible separator to build around. But I understand where you're coming from. It's like, okay, how do we mix both Christian Kirk and Jordan Addison in the same
in the mix,
in the same team? I almost lean towards like Quentin Johnston being the pick here.
Yeah, and that's who I was
for the
gonna
Jags.
go with. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we said
he complements Kirk really well.
Yeah, it would be a great compliment, and it would be like the D-Hop to Christian Kirk, what it could have been, what it should have been, when they drafted Christian Kirk in that thought process for the Cardinals. But,
Reaver agrees. Yeah. Well, this would be interesting as far as like dynasty purposes. I would love this for Addison. As far as like being able to build with a young quarterback that I like.
Yeah.
I'm saying like his draft capital in dynasty. I would like this for Addison. This isn't a landing spot I don't like, is what I'm saying.
I hear you.
All right, at number 8, the Raiders go defense. Number 9, the Steelers go defense. And number 10, the Bears go offensive line. Not exactly the big splash we wanted to see, but if they bring in a wide receiver through free agency, maybe this is the right move.
Yeah,
they 100% need to improve their offensive line and weapons, no doubt.
Yeah, their offensive line is key for the Bears, but I'm not upset with them going. Like, what if they bring Allen? They bring a Jacoby. They're not big names.
It's not enough for me.
Big names. I mean, I can't think of anyone that's on free. There's no big name free agents though.
No, there is no there's huge big name free agent running backs, but not wide receivers. Again, will tell you like where the league is heading anyway. It's heading towards valuing wide receivers, but yeah. No offense to Dante Pettis, but if he's starting for your team, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's terrible. There's no one out there unless they make a trade. There's been trade talks of people trying to get rid of some players like Claypool, Jerry Jeudy has been in trade talks. I don't know. I doubt DJ Moore is going to be in trade talks, but he could be moved. But they're saying he's a foundational piece. Maybe any of those 3 guys, I'm happy for the Bears to try and acquire them.
Sure.
Either one of them is saying, okay, you know what? Maybe they have something with an offensive line. But this is a whole process for the Bears.
Yeah, do us a favor, guys. We're going to look at the next pick, but drop a like if you haven't done so. Appreciate the support. All right, so the Bears go offensive line. Not the splash move that we want to make, but I understand the reason behind it. The Falcons go linebacker, and this is the big one here. The Dolphins draft Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas. The Dolphins might have bigger needs than running back, but they won't find a better player on the board at this point than Bijan Robinson. I agree. He is a do-everything talent that could help further maximize what Miami has on offense with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill at wide receiver. Oh, my goodness. Could you imagine? Could you imagine Bijan Robinson in Miami?
Yeah, it would be crazy, especially with McDaniels, who is revitalizing Raheem's career right now.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what we can do with some fresh legs and a guy that can catch the ball and
do everything.
Literally, he can, exactly, do everything. It would be crazy. The first team that I thought of if Bijan does come to this team, or get drafted to this team, is the Bengals. They have Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, hypothetically,
right.
T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, and then Joe Mixon with Bijan Robinson, and then you have competent quarterbacks. Like we're tour believers.
Yeah.
And the defense is good. The defense is better than the Bengals. The offensive line, I'm pretty sure, is better than the Bengals.
Right.
This is a Super Bowl contending team if they get acquire Bijan 100%.
Yeah,
that's
I
crazy.
Agree. I mean, this offense through its receivers is so explosive. You had literally like a game-changing running back that changes your offense. I mean, that could be huge. There are certain running backs that their impact alone improves an offense as a whole. Last year I said that was Breece Hall. I think we said that was Ken Walker. Bijan Robinson is the way that Breece Hall transformed New York's offense. I think Bijan could have an even bigger impact in the NFL. I mean, the dude is a generational talent. The best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. High expectations. This would be a beautiful landing spot for him. I wonder how that would impact, though, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle as far as their target share. Because maybe you go from being as pass-heavy as they are to run-heavy. I don't know, but I think this is great for this team overall. It doesn't worry me about any of the weapons in general, and I love this landing spot.
Yeah.
Lock him in 101.
No doubt.
All right. At 13, the Cardinals go edge rusher. At 14, Washington goes cornerback. I've heard a lot of people sending a cornerback to Washington, and I understand why, because we're awful. At 15, the Packers don't go wide receiver, but I think they would get an absolute steal if Peter Skoronski, the offensive tackle, falls here. A lot of people have him as the best tackle in the draft.
Yeah,
but
exactly. This is the guy that I've been hearing, Peter Skoronski. There's been a bunch of mocks of, obviously, I'm a Giants fan. It's like, oh, maybe they can get an offensive tackle. Maybe Peter's the best guy. He's been the best guy so far in this draft. So let's see what happens. I'm interested to see where he lands.
It's crazy that, because for me, I felt like the Packers had a pretty good offensive line coming into this year. But through injuries and in a lot of other situations, they've been pretty decimated. So this makes sense.
I think that has to be the Bears pick. If they don't go, that's
what I was going to say. Why didn't the Bears go Peter Skoronski?
Yeah, if they don't go wide receiver, I think they have to go Peter Skoronski. Obviously, unless you...
I wonder if he has anything to say about it here. He says, keeping up with musical chairs that have been the Packers' offensive line in recent years has been tiresome. While the Packers have made plenty of day 3 picks on offensive linemen, it's time for a premium investment in what can be a stabilizing player. That's exactly what the Green Bay Packers would get. Right. I mean, it doesn't really say anything too much about it. But you like this for Aaron Jones? You like this for A.J. Dillon? You like this if you have Christian Watson? Yeah. All right, makes sense. All right, at 16, the Patriots get a wide receiver, one that we definitely love, in Quentin Johnston. If you don't know Quentin Johnston, he is a big body wide receiver out of TCU. I know, you hear the name, you hear TCU and wide receiver, and you want to throw up. We think of Jalen Reagor, we think of Josh Doxson. I get it. I definitely understand. But again, as we always try and tell people when we look at Ohio State quarterbacks, TCU wide receivers, scout the player, don't scout the helmet. Every situation is different. Every scenario that a player steps into is different. You look at Quentin Johnston, 215 pounds, 6'4", a young wide receiver as well. He's not going to be too old when he comes into the NFL. Has been dominating the stretch of the past 3 games versus Kansas, Oklahoma State, and K-State, who are all ranked defenses. He has been incredible, put up huge numbers. I mean, this is a player who can do whatever you want on the field. Like, he can do whatever you want on the field. We're talking about, limits in size for some of these other guys. That is not the problem for Quentin Johnston. Huge, big body wide receiver that I think could be a franchise-changing receiver for sure. I like this fit for Zappy, for Jones. I don't know.
For somebody, we don't know, but yes,
whoever it is there.
Quentin Johnston is a guy that has been rising up my board, especially in the last 3 weeks. And when I watched highlights of him in every snap. Of him the past couple of days. Yeah. Just really trying to understand him a little bit more, trying to figure out what's happening. And he's good for a 6'4" wide receiver. He can be utilized like anyone, I feel like. But let's see what happens. I'm interested to see. Patriots will be interesting, but Patriots history, they don't draft.
They don't do these moves, but I think they have to. Like, in the past, Tom Brady has made up for your mistakes. He has been the ultimate eraser of mistakes because his IQ, give me any wide receivers, I'll make it work. But you don't have Brady anymore, and your offense doesn't look explosive, and you need an explosive wide receiver. I still think Tyquan Thornton can develop really well this year, but let's see his thoughts. He says the Patriots defense has mostly performed well in 2022 and received strong contributions from young players in the secondary, which makes it easy to look towards the offensive side of the football. I believe New England would benefit most from adding a true field stretcher with size, and that's what they would be getting in Quentin Johnston. I agree. I definitely agree. Yeah. I like this pick. For dynasty purposes, I mean, we already kind of have him as like a top 9 pick in the first round.
Yeah.
Kind of stays the same.
I'm not necessarily, not thinking about it. I'm not necessarily sure I love the landing spot
for Dynasty. It makes sense for the team, but
for the team, it makes sense for the team. In Dynasty, how much do we trust in Mac Jones? How much do we trust in Bailey Zappi?
Right.
Unless this offense does change significantly. I think the offense looks completely different with Bailey Zappi than it does with Mac Jones. I feel like the plays that they call for Zappi is completely different. And if they do move on with Zappi, I think I would prefer Quentin Johnston. Because he can move a little bit more, where Mac Jones,
So the hard part about that is, let's keep in mind that in the first time for a long time, a wide receiver won the Heisman Trophy in Devonta Smith and his quarterback, Mac Jones. The hard part with Mac Jones is who the hell has he had? What wide receiver could you point to that he could put up big numbers with? That's why I find it hard with Mac Jones and the Patriot fans like booing him and asking for Zappe. Like, this dude just went to a Pro Bowl last year. He was by far the best rookie quarterback. Now, is he the best quarterback in that class? No, neither. You and I both didn't believe he was still the best after being a rookie. But
yeah,
like, it's hard to say that he can't make someone relevant when he created a Heisman winning trophy wide receiver.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
It's gonna be interesting.
Maybe this is what unlocks him, or maybe he gets traded to Carolina, like every other quarterback who doesn't work out in the first go. At 17, the Colts go Paris Johnson. Paris Johnson's interesting. I think he's one of those names again that I think could go higher than this, but it makes sense. Keep building the offensive line.
I wonder how good. I haven't heard about this offensive line class, but so
pretty
far
good.
3 or 4 in the first
1, 2,
15 picks.
3. 3 in the first 15. It's a decent offensive line. I would say it's very on par with last year.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit weaker, but as far as like not as much depth, but top heavy, I would say.
Yeah.
All right, at number 18, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I keep seeing this everywhere, Badake. I keep seeing this everywhere, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it. Back in week 3 of the college football season, I brought up Hendon Hooker as a name to watch. I've been watching him ever since.
Yeah.
Love that his progression through Virginia Tech over to Tennessee. I think he instantly puts this team back into a win now mindset. Tom Brady clearly, has he lost a step? You tell me. It kind of looks like he might not even be in the right headspace to be playing football.
Right.
But Hendon Hooker steps in. He's done a lot of growth. He's had a lot of maturity over his years. Can step in instantly with these weapons and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think this would be a beautiful landing spot for Hendon Hooker. I know he's going to be 25 years old, but if he lands in Tampa Bay with that coaching staff, you still have BA there, kind of working behind the scenes. I'll take Hendon Hooker in the first round at the very end of the first round in a Dynasty rookie draft if he lands here.
Yeah, I think that this is a good spot right now, and I have been seeing it everywhere. Stepping up, put his name on the map after beating Alabama this past week, or week before now. It's been 2 weeks, has it? Wow,
yeah,
it's been 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Crazy, but he looks like a guy right now. Let's see what the NFL. I think as we get closer, you kind of start hearing his name, because I don't think you see his name in mock drafts, but we haven't heard his name anywhere. I could be wrong. I haven't heard his name anywhere.
Right, as in he's still not a hype name outside of the college.
Exactly.
He is in college football, but not in the draft world for some reason.
Yeah, in the draft world, it's still Will, it's still Anderson, but no Hendon Hooker.
I think that has to do with his age, mostly, to be honest, because he is an older quarterback. He's I believe 25 years old when he gets drafted, but there's nothing that you can point at his game and say he doesn't look like a complete quarterback. He's got the arm to make the throws. He's athletic. He's a dual threat. He can definitely run on the ground. IQ is there. Leadership is there. I don't know, what else do you want from a quarterback? Yeah. And the age, I understand, is a problem, but, man, he looks special to me. He really, really does. I like this fit. And I think I love this. Like, if you get Hendon Hooker, hey, sign me up for another couple of years of Chris Godwin.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
Good.
All right, on to number 18. The Lions go defense. The
19.
Chargers go offense, though.
Right.
I thought this one was interesting because you look at the Chargers in general, and you see what Gerald Everett has been able to offer in fantasy as a tight end connected to Justin Herbert. Keenan Allen gets a little bit older. Mike Williams is getting a little bit older. Michael Mayer, clearly the best tight end in this class. Out of Notre Dame, has been putting up mega numbers for the tight end position. I believe last week he had 115 yards and a tud on the season. And these stats might not look huge for you guys, but at this point of the season, for a tight end, these are monster stats. So he's played pretty well, really well-rounded tight end as well. Like, he's not only just an offensive threat, he's pretty good as a blocker. I think he's just a good overall, all-around tight end that I could see being, I'm not going to say George Kittle, but someone who could develop into one of those top 5, to 6 to 7 tight ends in the NFL. And if he lands in LA with Herbert, I think that's a beautiful landing spot for him.
Yeah, and I think I do like this landing spot because you picture Michael as a. I mean, I know you said George Kittle, but that's how I truly picture him.
Yeah.
Picture him as a guy that can block. He's an extra offensive lineman that has hands.
Yeah.
You know, and that is huge in this league, especially that's why the run game is so successful in 49ers, because George Kittle can block, and when he's done blocking or when he freaking face plants somebody or pancakes somebody, gets up and he runs a 15-yard route and catches a ball. You know, I don't think Gerald Everett is a guy that's blocking for you.
No, Gerald Everett, you're right. Very limited in what he can do for you.
Exactly. He's older right now, but I think this would be the right move. They have the offensive line pieces.
I like this.
I think this will a good. I mean, I can't think of another piece that they need. I don't know if they need another corner. I don't know if they need another offensive lineman.
I wouldn't be like upset about adding a wide receiver, but tied in like with Michael Mayer, I think this is a beautiful landing spot for him and for the team. I think it makes a lot of sense and gives them a different dimension at the tight end position that, you know, a wide receiver might not be able to offer with the weapons they already have there. But you're right, their defense could improve, so we'll see what they do. I like this landing spot though.
They just lost JC as well, so maybe I don't know.
Does this make Michael a early second round pick then? Like the 201 to the 202, 3?
Yeah, it does.
I think it does, right?
I think after the next guy at this landing spot, I don't think this makes him a first rounder, which sucks in my opinion. Well, it does still. It does keep. But I will. Yeah, it's tough.
All right. Well, Baltimore goes defense. Seattle goes defense. The Bengals go defense. Jackson Smith and Jigba goes to the Tennessee Titans. Did you want to talk about Jackson Smith?
Yeah, I mean, he right now he's my favorite wide receiver in this class. He's a guy that I believe he can go anywhere besides his team, it feels like, and be successful. I know that may sound biased, and maybe that's because I'm not a massive believer in what they're doing over there. And obviously, they're a run-first offense right now. They need to throw the ball. What's going to happen? Is it going to be Tannehill? Is it going to be Malik? Do I trust Malik? Can Malik make Jackson Smith, you know, relevant immediately? No, because he has to try to make Treylon Burks irrelevant immediately.
Well, I think they could almost help each other though, because who is taking attention away from Burks this year? Who's taking attention away from Jackson Smith? I think they could help each other.
Yeah, it's tough. I just don't.
I get the landing spot's not ideal though.
I think another thing is like, not that they're similar, but you're also.
They're not similar. I think they're two very complementary wide receivers.
I think they could have gone a different way though. Like,
okay.
I think Treylon
Jackson Smith is 6'1", 200 pounds, right? Treylon is very much the 6'4", big body. I think he's 220, 30 pounds. I'm not sure.
But the way they utilized him was like the Debo. Like one of the biggest things that we compared him to was Debo, because he can take handoffs and he can do the quick slants.
Sure.
And with that big.
But I'm not sure
frame.
that's Jackson Smith's game at all, though. I think they complement each other really well.
It's not. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of the landing spot. But I love the talent. The talent's there, but I don't think he falls all the way to the 24.
I don't think he falls that far either.
But I think maybe I wonder, what does he say? Does he fall because of his injury right now, or
I don't know, lack of production? I mean, if we're talking about, here's the thing that I don't get about him falling this far, is production isn't the most important thing for scouts in the NFL. It is important, but I think they look more at talents and traits and abilities rather than just production. So I don't think he falls as far. But Tennessee Titans are 4-2. They're first in the AFC South. Why would they move on from Ryan Tannehill? You know. So
yeah, it's true. Why would they move on from him? Maybe they get a running back here, though. I mean,
yeah.
But at the same time, there's no other first-round running backs. I mean, Gibbs went first last time in the last mock we did, but he was the 32nd.
Yeah.
The last team took him, so it's interesting.
All right, at 25, the Jets go offensive line. I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, building around the run game, which is probably their big strength. You'll get Breece Hall back.
Beckman being out for the past 2 years, is like they might move on from him.
Yeah, you'll get Breece Hall back, and it'll. I think that's a great move for them. I think that makes a lot of sense. The Dallas Cowboys also go offensive line, which I think if these wide receivers are still on the board, who hasn't been drafted? Boutte hasn't been drafted. If Boutte's on the board, I don't think they pass up on Boutte. But Fair enough. This is his mock. I mean, this is good for every other weapon in Dallas. You know, the future of their success.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would pass on Boutte if he's on the board. At 27, the Vikings go Darnell Washington.
Darnell Washington.
I think this is a little bit too high. I don't know where you stand.
Wasn't his teammate higher than, like, supposed to be the guy?
No, that's for next year.
Okay,
so
that's for next year. Okay.
The
Gilbert, something like that, right?
So Georgia in general has like 4 incredible prospects on their tight end position. Okay, Darnell Washington, Eric Gilbert, Brock Bowers is probably the best tight end in the country, and I can't remember the other one. He's a young guy who's just come in. But between Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington, I think they both will be drafted. I just don't think that Darnell's done enough to draft him this high. Again, I guess this is a scenario where you don't only look at the stats, because the stats are really not that impressive at all, but you look at the traits. 670 pounds. The dude absolutely adds to the offensive line. He's athletic. I don't know. I just think this is too early. He more feels like a late second, early third round pick to me.
Okay.
I don't know. His idea says, I love the idea of what a talent. So yeah, he's not focusing on the production like Darnell Washington can mean for the Vikings offense. Not only is he an exceptional run blocker that can be an asset for Dalvin Cook, but he is a massive and athletic target in the passing game. He has a unique skill set that could be an X factor in the development of the Vikings offense under Kevin O'Connell. So I understand it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just too early.
What I find really interesting is that every single year we were saying it's Irv Smith, it's Irv Smith, it's Irv Smith. And every time it was it wasn't Irv Smith. You know, like, it just feels like they don't prioritize him as much as we hoped and expected after what was his sophomore year. If I'm not mistaken, I think he had like a nice little run in 2020, and then obviously he was injured in 2021.
Sure. Yeah.
They just feel like they still haven't prioritized him, and I don't know if they will prioritize this tight end, Washington coming in, but hey, I could be wrong.
The thing is, when you have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook, it's going to be hard to be a priority.
I think if anything, like, you draft over the wide receiver because Thielen's getting older.
That's what I was thinking. Like, Boutte, why not go Boutte here? Yeah. And Boutte really complements, I think, Justin Jefferson really well. Boutte's very good after the catch. Jefferson's kind of he's still good after the catch. Don't get me wrong. Jefferson's incredible after the catch, but Boutte's most like that in between the tackles, yak type player. So I think they would complement each other really, really well. This is interesting. I think it's too high. Number 28, though, the Kansas City Chiefs get Kayshon Boutte. He falls all the way to 28. Let's see here his reasoning. The Chiefs wide receiver core was overhauled last season, and there's a chance it looks different again after the next offseason. As Kansas City's rosters continues to become more expensive, the need for major contributors on a rookie deal is critical. Kayshon Boutte is the most physically dynamic wide receiver in the rising class, and pairing him with Patrick Mahomes could be lethal. I love this. What we have to be careful of is what happened when Sky Moore went to Kansas City. Everyone boosted him way up their rankings and overdrafted him. But Boutte is a little bit different in the sense that he probably is the most talented wide receiver in this class. It's just the production hasn't been there this year.
The quarterback play just hasn't been what we all expected it to be.
Yeah.
Well, and it sucks for Kayshon, because Kayshon, if he would have went to the draft last year, if he had the opportunity, he would have been a top guy. He would have been drafted in the top 15.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Reaver says, if Boutte goes to the Chiefs, does he become the number one wide receiver in the rookie draft? So where are the landing spots for everyone else here? Again, I don't have a strict stance on who my wide receiver one in this class is. Jackson Smith, no, you go Boutte over him in that scenario.
I think I'll go Boutte over everyone.
You probably do go Boutte.
Going Boutte over Jordan, Boutte over Jackson Smith, Boutte over Quentin Johnston.
This would make him probably the number one wide receiver in the class.
That's purely because of 2 words, Patrick Mahomes.
Well, also, I think he's probably is the most talented guy anyway in the class. So you add those 2 combinations, and it makes it really interesting.
And that's what makes it interesting and that's what Jason's saying, like, should we look to Sky Moore? He's getting really, really worried about him, and I'm getting worried about purely based off this.
Sure, but this is just
know it's
hypothetical.
I know it's hypothetical,
You know,
but like it's actually a real thought process though. Like I actually believe that they could get a wide receiver, and
sure.
the problem is as well is like if someone like a Boutte falls or someone like a Quinton falls, there's always somebody that falls that we don't expect. Like we expected George Pickens to go in the first or in a lot higher, excuse me, and he fell really late. And
I think the difference with last year's class and this year's class is it's nowhere near as deep, though. And I don't imagine any of these 4 wide receivers being available when Kansas City picks. Truly. Like, I don't think Sean Boutte is going to fall to 28. I don't think that a wide receiver goes past Dallas. I don't think a wide receiver probably goes past, you know, like, I personally don't see these wide receivers lasting past, like, pick 17, 18. Remember what happened last year? People moved up for Olave. Dotson went early. You know, the difference with last year's class is that it was so deep, people felt comfortable waiting. And I don't feel that about this class. I think this is an unrealistic landing spot for Kayshawn. As much as I love it, I'm a Chiefs fan. I want Kayshawn in Kansas City. This just feels unrealistic. I don't think he falls as far. And also, keeping in mind just how important the wide receiver position is in the NFL. We talked about Badake. How many impact free agent wide receivers are there next year? Almost none. Why? Because they've been signed to long-term deals. How about running backs? However many do you want? There's so many available. Like, in the draft, you're going to see that keep being an impact. I don't think that he would fall this far.
This will be good for teams that do have wide receivers, like the middle of the pack guys, for example, the Lions, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Seahawks. You know, maybe what if the Cowboys, what if the Chiefs do move up, you know, and try and get one of these guys? I think that would speak. That would just say so much more. But I get what you're saying. Anything can happen in draft day, which is going to be crazy.
Sure.
A team is always going to take somebody that we never expected them to take. Like we didn't expect the Jets to take Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
You know.
I think I'll get worried about Sky if by the end of the season we've not seen any flashes or future. You know, that's when I'll start to get worried. But I get it.
Yeah.
This landing spot's incredible, though. I love it. Don't think it's realistic, but I love it. You're telling me that the Vikings are going to let Kayshon Boutte fall to Kansas City and they're going to take Darnell Washington? Same with the Cowboys. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, interesting.
At number 29, your New York Giants go defense and they go linebacker. Never like to see a linebacker drafted to your team in the first round.
Well, that's exactly what we struggled with, to be honest. We need a linebacker. We don't have we have Jalen Smith of the Cowboys. He's our best linebacker.
Sure. It just feels like the linebacker position is equivalent to the running back position in the first round for your team. Like, you never want to see that position go in the first round to your team. Typically, you know, linebackers beat up more than most positions, and that's just what it feels like for me at least. When Jamin Davis was drafted to Washington, I was like, oh my God, this is such a boring pick. Why did we take a linebacker in the first round? So
yeah, that's fair.
At 30, the Bills go offensive line. You know, I guess it makes sense. They're trying to continually improve their offensive line. Is there a different weapon that you would have wanted to see go there? Technically, Jahmyr Gibbs is still on the board, but they just invested in James Cook last year. Devin Singletary, I'm assuming they would have brought back on a deal. I guess, like, offensive line's probably the move here unless you want to go running back.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. And then at 31, the Eagles go defense as well, meaning Jahmyr Gibbs is not drafted. Let's talk about the players that were not drafted.
Yeah, I guess Jahmyr. That's the first one.
Jahmyr wasn't drafted in the first round. That is very surprising.
Obviously, a lot of teams can pick him up. I mean, the first team that comes to mind will probably be the Panthers.
Right.
They
in the second.
Have an extra second round pick in the second round.
What about the Texans to pair up with Dameon Pierce? Oh
sure.
My God, that would be so annoying.
That would be crazy. Who else?
I didn't really expect any of these other running backs to be drafted in the first, so you know that's not all that surprising. Wide receiver wasn't a wide receiver to me that stood out. That should have been drafted in the first. I don't know about you.
Yeah, agreed.
Quarterback wise, I mean, I guess you can make the case for Richardson if he comes out based off of upside, but Right now, he's not a first round pick if he comes
If you
out.
if you go to the consensus mock draft, if I'm not mistaken,
Okay.
in the middle and then scroll all the way down, um, you can kind of see it was kind of similar to what he had the
Consensus mock draft. I'm on
it's on the
consensus.
it
Okay,
says
consensus mock draft.
you see where it says mock draft database consensus
on 1
mock
week?
draft, yeah, and then scroll down.
Okay,
from
right.
there. It's a little bit different. Like they have Jahmyr Gibbs here going to the Bills. Well, hypothetically, he's not
Okay.
going to, obviously he's not going to the Bills.
Jackson Smith to the Packers.
Yeah.
A lot of people have Hendon to the Bucks. Jahmyr to the Bills. You're right. Josh Downs to Cleveland. I don't know that happens when they have DPJ. I don't really like that pick. Cedric Tillman
Gosh,
to the Bears. Anyway, why would they go Jaron Hall? Oh, this is just consensus, so this is like the most likely picks. Jaron Hall to the Bucks when they went Hendon Hooker in the first. Anyway, this has been fun.
Whoa, it took Tanner McGee. Gosh, that'd be crazy.
You did?
No way that the Giants did, but there's no way that's happening. We're not going to take an immobile quarterback. Nah, I don't think that's Brian Dable's motto.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, that was fun. I always like, looking through mock drafts and seeing what people have done and their reasonings behind it. I think the one that I think a couple things. I don't think these wide receivers will fall. The wide receiver market is incredibly aggressive, and I just don't see a scenario in which, in such a shallow class, that these guys fall. I just don't see that happening. Right. I don't think Darnell Washington's a first round pick. He's more like a late second to me. Jackson Smith, I don't think falls that far. Michael Mayer, I love that spot. Hendon Hooker, I love that spot. I think Peter Skoronski goes higher than this. Bijan, beautiful landing spot. I love it. And then I think you and I both, we love Jordan Addison, but we prefer Quentin Johnston to Jacksonville. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think it's crazy.
We'll definitely be doing a lot more mock drafts, especially when we get into the season. I think I think, it'll be really interesting. We'll do one right when playoffs happen, so those teams are locked. Yeah. And then as the playoffs happen, that can jumble back and forth. There's only 8 teams, eight teams in the playoffs. So I cannot wait until all that is locked, so we know who officially has the first round pick. Yeah. It's going to be phenomenal.
Agreed. But Soxer says the Vikings probably take a kicker. Hey, it's a good year to be a Vikings fan, Soxer.
Yeah, what, 5-2 right now? Just coming off like that week. What do you guys play this week? You guys do have a fun fact, by the way. The Giants and Seahawks are the only 2 teams that both have over 500 records playing.
The Vikings?
Vikings playing the Cardinals this week.
Cardinals, yes.
Yeah, that should be a win, personally.
I think that'll be a close game. With D-Hop back, I think that'll be a close game. Reaver says, I think AR gets picked late/early if he commits. Someone's going to take a bite. I agree. I just don't, I think at this point, I don't know if he should commit. Let's see. Early second. What's up, Saxter? Yeah, we're just finishing the stream. But anyway, guys, huge love. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you like this kind of content where we kind of look at someone's mock draft and talk about how it might impact Dynasty football. It's always fun. It's always fun to place prospects that we like and teams and, kind of see how it might impact the landscape of Dynasty football. Yeah. But that is it for today. Huge love. Thanks for joining us. And we'll be live again next week. Drop a like on your way out. Subscribe. Heir to the Vikings. That could be really interesting. Yeah. That could be interesting. Could be interesting. Anyway, guys, huge love. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you soon.